Décadé.
Alright, welcome to A Whole Lot of Cash, episode 2. We got a very special guest in the building tonight. This is blood right here. It's the Mogul. You understand? We're gonna get right into this thing. We ain't gonna waste no time.
For sure.
Tell us about, where you from, man. Tell us about your early life.
That's interesting when you got real blood on the other side of it. But yeah, started out born in Chicago, raised in Chicago Heights. We born in the Inglewood area, and then been in the Heights, most of my teenage adult life.
Right.
Went to high school in the burbs, and then just migrated further south to the burbs, which a whole lot of family in the city. So I had the best of both worlds, I guess.
For sure. And anybody from the rack, we know what the Heights like, we know what Inglewood like, but for those outside of the city, what was that environment growing up in the Heights?
It was the same, just two different ones, man.
Right.
Like you being out in the city, it's a lot of GVs, you move out to the Heights, it's a lot of foes, a lot of black stones, so gang culture was very prevalent,
right.
Especially in high school, but it was really like having the best of both worlds, you know what I'm saying? Then when relationships started spreading out west, you just felt like you had a good bite on the city.
For sure.
So it's cool.
For sure. So you mentioned the gang culture and you having to maneuver through that, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So during that time frame, when did you come to the realization that you wanted to do music? Because you could have easily went left.
Music came, inherited, bro. Inherited, I remember being in the Heights, and I remember just getting into some wild shit, and then I got the call from Big Bro Blackie, and he was just like, I'm finna come get you. And when he came and got me, I went on the TP2 tour, and that was my first tour, where it was like, I didn't come back home, I had a tutor in American school and all of that shit. I went to high school for the first 6 months and the last 6 months. The rest of that time I was touring, or just living in Florida at the time. We was in Miami, so.
That's a hell of a life for a high school student, man.
It was good, because it made everything that I was supposed to cherish not feel like nothing. So I didn't do nothing traditional. I didn't have a traditional upbringing, so I didn't get to do like prom, homecomings. That shit I was way too advanced for that, So
Gotcha.
It just made growing up weird,
Okay. Now, because you said something, so I want to go back before you get some props. So, because it's a lot of kids out there don't know what the hell the TP2 tour was and how big it was. They should.
It was
sure.
It was different, and this was before YouTube. Before YouTube, MySpace was around. I think Facebook was around. I don't know. I've never really been a big internet dude, but I know for sure they know. And it was more memories than pictures and posts.
Sure.
It was a time where I didn't really. You couldn't document it. It was just so fast.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like albums were still selling. We still have millions of hard copy albums outside. Versus now you're in a digital streaming era. So to live through 2 phases of music alone is just crazy. I remember platinum. I remember going platinum in a week. I remember going platinum in 3-4 days. I remember going 6 apart. I remember all these things that I had the pleasure to do, or just flying private, doing all type of wild shit that just now is a thing that if we had that in Instagram back then. I'm like, what? It would be ridiculous.
Crazy.
It's cool. The crazy part is when I run into some of them older guys. We at the compound right now, and one of the guys, Godfather, shout out Godfather, he came through here and he like one of the OGs in the city. And he just got a lot of relationships. And he fucking with politicians, and he was just like, it was weird because he was in here telling all of these stories about, telling older niggas they talk. So he like, man, I remember when he was 12 and he was on the bus and all of that. So to hear Godfather and them like ones, the made men that's still around, to be able to tell them stories is dope because I'm in that weird generation gap. I feel like the middle child. Like all my peers that I really spend time with are 40, 42 years old, and then you got, my niggas that's in my studio that's like 28, 27. They look at me like they pops.
Right.
So it's just a weird time,
For sure.
But it's cool. You with that?
Yeah, of course. Around that time, right? So when you first started going on tour, the TP2 tour era, did you have any expectations for yourself? Did you have any goals set for yourself, or was you just a kid having fun?
Well, I got a job real fast because my first ever job, I was hype man for Bow Wow. and that was like the Scream Tour shit.
Okay.
So like this was like when B2K first just came out, but like I did one run, Scream Tour 2, with Snoop and Rob at the time was very close. And Snoop literally was like, man, take little cuz with you. And I was a fan anyway, so I had that experience of doing like theaters at like 14. But that shit was like an adrenaline I just couldn't explain.
Right, for sure. You mentioned how you watched the industry transition.
For sure.
From selling albums and CDs going platinum to now being digitally based.
Yeah.
What's your opinion on the current state of the industry?
It's different.
How it's changed because, you know, the competition used to be, I would say, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, it used to be a lot more stringent, right?
It was less saturated. To be a celebrity back then meant something. You know, you couldn't go on your favorite picture, you couldn't go on your favorite artist page and saw what they ate today. It was a stardom part that I remember vividly, being in these different countries, being in Zimbabwe for the FIFA World Cup, just different things I had to experience to see stardom was a thing. It's like that was a different experience. And now today, you verified on social media you was a celebrity or somebody. You know?
Right.
And that was the difference. It was, and talent mattered. You know, when you was, back then you had to at least, even if you couldn't write the songs, you had to have a whole package. You had to be able to have the chest, the voice, the sex appeal, the charisma, all of these things to make a star. And then artists went through all of this development, and then you got these other things like this munch key or this that just happened. It just happened fast, and it'd be like 15 minutes of fame for everybody. You know, so it's just a different time, you know. But it's like hustling, you know. Unfortunately, you know, we don't experience the same drugs that we experienced in 2000.
Right.
You know, 2010. You know, Molly, pills, and you know, back when our parents was, you know, rocking, it was PCP, harder shit, you know, so now you got,
everything changes.
You know, now you got ecstasy and, you know, whatever else they taking now, you know. So it's just, it's the same shit, just two different words, you know. But, you know, they call golden era for a reason, you know, when people was going platinum and you had those physical, it was that anticipation of running to the store, Sam Witty, FYE, you know, things like that. Now it's just like, you get a notification on your phone. You got an unlimited library. You know, I was just starting to watch this thing called the Playlist on Netflix, and they talk about the birth of Spotify, and you know how they had Napster and all this other shit. But I just remember like the pandemonium of in-store signings. You know, when an artist would come to a store. Glorilla did one recently, but that's just like it ain't the same. They ain't even pressing up a lot of physical copies.
Right.
You know, but that was a thing. You know, it was a thing to go to if you was a celebrity to go to a store and buy your partner, your label friend, artist, all his CDs out the store to just show you support and had a version of support as a post on Instagram. You know, so it's just different. You know, you adjust, you adapt, or you don't.
You mentioned talent.
Yeah.
Today, in today's industry, would you say that, you know, it's more gimmick based versus talent driven? Or
it's different. It's not even gimmick. It's just social media. That shit has just changed the world, man. Because now you got, it's a whole new paradigm of music, you know. And I hate to get into the technicals of the music industry, but like there's this thing happening right now where labels are licensing songs for artists they don't even sign. So like, let's say some shit blow up on TikTok, they will license the song, and then by the time they will license your name, and by the time you come sign, they already got your identity. Because you're just not, because it's already out there, it's already in the streaming world, so it's easy to claim if it's unclaimed. So you know, now it's like they got a list of like 125, you know, TikTok streaming artists, and they just go sign them, you know. So now it's not even about.
So look, not to cut you off, but so the artist doesn't have any copyright protection at this point in time because of the streaming. Not if you're not doing it because you're uploading to a major district like a TuneCore, DistroKid. You're uploading to these platforms. If you don't have ASCAP, BML, or just any type of you know, professional organization or professional rights organization behind you, then no, your music can be licensed. You know, it's no different than when I used to buy domains. Like I used to buy artist domains before they popped, and then when they came, I would sell them. So get your pub in order.
Yeah, all your performance rights in order. Stuff in order.
For sure.
This is like having, you know, a social security card. Somebody's making money on it. Every time it's streamed, somebody's getting paid, whether it's you or somebody else.
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, you've been in the industry for a couple of decades at this point.
I'm 32, 2 decades.
Yeah.
12 is when my first tour. Damn, you know.
Yeah, you know, hey, man, we get better, man.
About that shit.
Nah, I mean, you know, I put it like that to say, you know, the experience that you have and the journey that I'm sure that you embarked on just to get to this point.
Yeah.
So with that wealth of knowledge, what advice would you give for newer artists who got the talent but lack the clout?
I got a good answer for that. I don't want it to sound common because I repeat it 10 times, but community. Community is big. I think, I talked to you about that at one point, but just like owning into your demographic, it's 8 trillion people in the world.
Yeah.
If you could get 20,000 of them, 50,000 of them to buy something that's $50, that's $100K to live.
Sure.
The problem is sometimes you don't even focus on building that, and then that expands. The biggest promotion is referral in any business. Referral. It ain't, yes, I can stumble upon it, but if somebody I trust tells me something or shows me something or tries to put me on something, that's you can't even count that as a transaction. But it's one of the most transactional things to be led on to something by another person. So if it's a good product and it's actually put in the right hands of the people that's like you or that fuck with you, that has a perspective like you, all you need is 50,000 of people that think like you, and that's not hard. It sounds hard, but it really isn't.
Yeah. I mean,
if you want to make a living off of it.
Fuck these puss ass niggas, I tell you. They gon' whisper your accomplishments and scream your failures, but they only seek acknowledgement. They team isn't fair. Got plenty around, we need more paraphernalia.
We back. Whole lot of cash podcast. I got Mogul in the house.
What's up, man?
What's up, bro?
This is pretty cool, man.
Man, it's an honor to be doing it. See, y'all don't understand. This is blood. So we go way back. I'm talking about early 90s, late 80s. You know what I'm saying?
So,
his mama dropped him off at my grandma's house.
Yeah, granny house.
We in there. You know what I mean?
Family, man.
So,
shout out to family.
For sure.
Family is everything.
It's everything. We're gonna jump back into this thing. So TP2 tour, that's when R. Kelly was, I don't know, I go back and forth because I like to say he had a pinnacle in the 90s as well, but it felt like that was around his second coming. I Wish, and that's when all that came out, right?
Yeah, I Wish was TP2.
Yeah, for sure. Being that you started with him, and I know he was such an influence on you and taught you so much, what's your thoughts on the current situation with Kells?
I don't have really thoughts on it. I just stay prayerful. People have to, this comes up off camera a lot, but I was so young that I barely knew what was going on. As far as not saying nothing was going on, but I wasn't in that type of business till 10 years ago. Like when I was 22.
Right.
So, not to say, I can't really get into, court stuff, but, at the end of the day, I'm praying for him. I'm very prayerful. I've been there. I wish that on nobody. Just pray for him, man. Think about him every day, So at the end of the day, they go back, And I might be more, conservative than others, but it's personal. It wasn't just money. It was far from just money. Like that man changed my life.
Right.
But